Hello viewers, we are going to begin the study of carbohydrates which are important biomolecules. Carbohydrates provide us the three basic needs of life, that is food, shelter and clothing. We will discuss about their structure and their uses in detail in a series of lectures. In our today's lecture, we will take up that what are these carbohydrates, what are their biological functions, then where do they occur, how they are classified, what are their nomenclature methods. One of the basic carbohydrate is glucose. We will talk about the preparation of glucose and how its structure was elucidated, and then we will summarize our today's work. Carbohydrates form a very large group of naturally occurring organic compounds. As I said, that they are used in all fields of life. When these compounds were originally obtained and they were chemically studied, it was found that most of the compounds of this group, they have a general formula of CX and then H2OY. X and Y can have some numerical values, and based on this formula they look like as if they are the hydrates of carbon, means there is a carbon having some water molecules attached to it, and from there the name carbohydrate was given to such molecules. Later on it was found that all the compounds of this class do not fit into this general formula, but still the name carbohydrate is retained for this class of compounds. Chemically, carbohydrates are defined as polyhydroxyaldehydes or ketones, are substances which give such units on hydrolysis. Because when the chemical analysis of these compounds was carried out, it was found that they contain either aldehyde or ketonic functional group and then alcoholic functional group, and then these are attached to obviously carbon atoms, and there can be 2 to 7 or 8 or even longer carbon chains in smaller units, and it was found that many smaller units then they combine to give larger units. This thing we will discuss in their classification. The smallest carbohydrate considered can be this compound, which is glycolaldehyde, or we also call it hydroxyethanol. It is a 2 carbon compound with one aldehyde group and one hydroxyl group. But many compounds which are being classified as monosaccharides, the term which we are going to use, have 4 carbons or more than that. They play a vital role in our daily life. The 4 primary functions of carbohydrates in the body, they provide energy. Most of the energy for our regular work is obtained in the cell by combustion of glucose, which is a basic unit in carbohydrates. Then they are used in storing the energy. In our body, the energy is stored in the form of a carbohydrate that is called glycogen, but the plants store in the form of starch. So we also call them as a storage depot of chemical energy, because plants produce this starch by taking the energy from sun, and then we eat this starch which gets converted into glucose in our body, and it burns to give us the energy for our regular work. So they act as source of energy for our body. Then they are used up to build other larger molecules, or we call them as macromolecules, in plants as well as in animals. And finally, they spare proteins and fats for other uses. Means whenever in our body amongst the basic molecules, carbohydrates, proteins and fats, they are there, first energy is obtained from carbohydrates. So proteins is used for other uses like preparation of muscles, and then fats are used for some other purposes. So carbohydrates, they spare them, and themselves they are consumed as a prime source of energy. Then where do we get carbohydrates generally? Most of the cereals, whether it is rice, wheat, maize, etc., they all contain starch which is a carbohydrate. Then glucose, fructose, sucrose, these are some basic carbohydrates. They are present in fruits. Milk contains another carbohydrate which is called lactose. Then different vegetables, potatoes, sweet potatoes also contain starch and some other complex carbohydrates. They are also named as fibers. Sugar cane, it is the main source for sucrose, and about 75% of the plant material, it is cellulose, which is a carbohydrate. Cotton, which is obtained from plants, is almost 100% cellulose, and I said earlier cotton is used for clothing. Then ribose and deoxyribose, these are two other carbohydrates which are present in RNAs and DNAs, which are very important biomolecules. Carbohydrates are classified in different ways. One of the simplest way of classifying the carbohydrates is based on their taste. Some of the carbohydrates are sweet in taste, and such carbohydrates which are sweet are called sugars. The other carbohydrates which do not have any taste, or at least they are not sweet, they are known as non-sugars. The most commonly used sugar in our homes is sucrose, that is the table sugar that we add to tea or milk or other sweet items. It is chemically sucrose. Other common examples of sugars are like glucose, fructose, galactose, maltose, lactose. These are all sweet sugars and they give sweet taste in fruits or milk or whatsoever sources they are obtained. Then carbohydrates are also classified on the basis of their hydrolysis behavior. I said earlier that carbohydrates are defined as polyhydroxyaldehydes or ketones are substances which provide such units. So, such smaller units which have aldehyde groups, ketonic groups or hydroxyl groups, they are called monosaccharides. Means monosaccharides are those units which cannot be further hydrolyzed to give simpler units of polyhydroxyaldehyde or ketones. And their examples are glucose, fructose, ribose, etc. Then there are certain other carbohydrates which get hydrolyzed to provide more than 2 monosaccharide units. If they provide 2 monosaccharide units, they are called disaccharides. If they provide 3 monosaccharide units, they are called trisaccharides, and up to 10 units they are collectively classified as oligosaccharides. So, oligosaccharides are those carbohydrates which yield 2 to 10 monosaccharide units on hydrolysis. Like sucrose is a disaccharide which provide glucose and fructose. Similarly, maltose, lactose, these are other disaccharides. Then polysaccharides. Polysaccharides are very large molecules and they on hydrolysis yield a large number of monosaccharides. Some common examples are starch, cellulose, glycogen, and also different type of gums which are obtained from plants. They are also polysaccharides. Then carbohydrates are also classified on the basis of their chemical behavior. In our studies on aldehydes and ketones, we have studied that aldehydes and ketones can be differentiated by certain tests called Tollens test or Fehling test. But it has been observed that in carbohydrates, monosaccharides, whether they are having aldehyde group or they are having a ketonic group, both give Tollens test as well as Fehling test. We will come to the reason for this little later. But those monosaccharides which reduce this Fehling solution and Tollens solution, they are classified as reducing sugars. All monosaccharides are reducing sugars, means they are having either aldehyde group or ketonic group. It shows that they have free functional groups. Free functional group means aldehyde and ketonic groups are not combined, they are free. The other type of carbohydrates, they become non-reducing sugars. These are the substances which do not reduce Fehling solution and Tollens reagent. Means they have bonded aldehyde or ketonic groups, they are not free to react. So, chemically we can classify these, and this test is generally used for differentiating between reducing and non-reducing, mostly monosaccharides and disaccharides. Then how they are named? Carbohydrate chemistry is very old, more than 150 years, and as these compounds were discovered, they were given some common names which are still popular. But systematic names have been given, although a systematic name will be able to differentiate them into a class of compounds, and individual compounds are still known by their common names. Such as this is a compound which is basically glucose. It has different hydroxyl groups and there is one aldehydic group. So, all those molecules which contain aldehydic groups, they are classified as aldose, and the compounds which have ketonic functional group in them, like this is fructose, which have ketonic group in them, they are classified as ketose. Then further we add in the name the total number of carbon atoms in the chain constituting that particular monosaccharide. Such as if there are 3 carbon atoms, then from 3 it will be named as triose. If 4 carbon sugar will be named as tetrose, 5 carbon pentose, 6 carbon hexose, 7 carbon haptose. And now we introduce the term whether they contain an aldehydic group or ketonic group. Suppose a 3 carbon sugar has an aldehydic group, then it will be classified as aldotriose, and if it has a ketone group, then it will be classified as ketotriose. Similarly, a 6 carbon sugar, if it is having an aldehydic group, it will be called as aldohexose, and if it is a ketonic functional group, then it will be called as ketohexose. So, the glucose is an aldohexose, whereas fructose would be a ketohexose. Now, let us take some examples where their IUPAC names, the systematic names and common names are compared. This particular compound is erythrose. If you want to name it systematically, then it will be having an aldehydic group and then hydroxyl groups, total 4 carbon in the chain. It will be named as aldotetrose. Only thing is that when we name it as aldotetrose, it is not able to tell us that about which isomer of this compound we are talking, because this compound has got 2 asymmetric carbon atoms. So, 4 isomers are possible, but these 4 isomers have been given common names. So, we will talk about this thing little later. Although it is difficult to remember the common name for all the compounds, but still in our studies of carbohydrates we are using common names because each and individual monosaccharide has been given some common name. Say it is a 5 carbon sugar with aldehydic group, so it will be classified as aldopentose, but this structure represents one particular isomer, ribose. Then as I said earlier, this is a 6 carbon a ketohexose, it is fructose, and this is a 6 carbon aldehydic group containing compound and aldohexose, and this particular isomer is glucose. Whenever for any chemical reaction or for any other work we have to specify the number to the carbon, that we will be using according to IUPAC system, that this main aldehydic group, main functional group, is assigned number 1. This carbon is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and onwards. So, we will start numbering the carbon chain in carbohydrates from the aldehydic functional group. Obviously, it will get the position 1. It has been found that all the naturally occurring keto sugars or ketoses have the carbonyl group at carbon number 2. No sugar in the nature has been found out where this keto functional group is present somewhere else in the chain. It is always at position number 2. So, for ketones, we will number from this side the first carbon, and then second carbon will be carbonyl group of ketonic function group. Now, let me tell one thing more here, that during the journey in the studies of carbohydrates, when this glucose molecule was originally obtained from natural sources, it was given the name simple glucose. But as the developments were made, new things in the structures were observed, its name kept on getting some prefixes. Like when it was known that this particular compound is dextrorotatory, we started writing its name as plus glucose. When its structure was elucidated and it was found that it contains many asymmetric carbon atoms and it is only one particular isomer which represents it, then its configuration was assigned. I will talk about configuration also. And it was given the name as D plus glucose. This capital D represents the configuration of that naturally occurring dextrorotatory glucose. Originally, it was thought that this glucose molecule has an open chain, as I have been showing the structure, but later on it was found that these have got cyclic structures, and when their cyclic structures were determined, then according to ring size present in them, two of such compounds were found, and they were then named as D plus glucopyranose and D plus glucofuranose. Here pyranose, the word pyran and furan which are introduced, they represent the ring size. And then when the ring is formed, two isomers of each compound are further formed. Like glucopyranose then has got two isomeric structures. One is named as alpha D plus glucopyranose, other is known as beta D plus glucopyranose. And we will come across step by step about these things as our journey continues in carbohydrate studies. I would like to add here this alpha D plus glucopyranose. Actually, this is the isomer which is present in starch. And beta D plus glucopyranose, this is the isomer which is present in cellulose. And a very small difference in the structure of the two compounds, but that causes a large difference in the molecules, that our body is able to digest starch, get converted into glucose, and then we get energy from it, and that is why starch is used as our basic food. Whereas cellulose, which is constituted from the beta D plus glucopyranose, in our body it cannot be digested. So, we cannot get any energy from cellulose, although certain animals have these enzymes and cellulose is used as their food. Now, let us come to the configurational nomenclature. I said just before that glucose was given the name D plus glucose, that capital D and similarly a term capital L, these two prefixes are used to represent the configuration of carbohydrates. Configuration, is the exact arrangement of different atoms or groups around the asymmetric carbon atoms, and they represent a particular stereoisomer. If a compound has got two stereoisomer, then they will be mirror image of each other. If there are more than that, depending upon the number of asymmetric carbon atoms, but each isomer has got a particular configuration. Configuration, I will again say that it is defined as the spatial arrangement of atoms or groups which characterizes a particular stereoisomer. Now, these configurations require certain nomenclature, and in case of carbohydrates, this nomenclature was given in relation to glyceraldehyde. Glyceraldehyde is the smallest carbohydrate which is capable of showing optical activity, means it has got one asymmetric carbon atom or one chiral center, and when it has got one chiral center, two isomers of glyceraldehyde are possible. One is dextrorotatory glyceraldehyde, obviously other is levorotatory glyceraldehyde. But the problem was that which of these two configuration, which are written in the dash and wedge formula, represents plus glyceraldehyde and which represents minus glyceraldehyde. Almost 150 years back, when the studies on these things were going on, there were no methods available to determine the configuration. So at that time, arbitrarily, this representation, this configuration in which hydroxyl is written on the right side on this wedge, was considered to be the configuration of plus glyceraldehyde, and this was considered for minus glyceraldehyde. Although this thing was found to be true after about a study of 70 years from the time when originally these configurations were arbitrarily assigned. So, this configuration which represents plus glyceraldehyde is written in a planar projection which is called Fischer projection like this. A Fischer projection is written as a cross, and the groups on these horizontal lines are the groups which are coming towards the viewer. This H and OH are coming towards the viewer, so they are written on these horizontal lines, and this vertical line, the groups are going behind the plane, that is going away from the viewer, which are represented here with a dotted lines. So, this is the Fischer projection for plus glyceraldehyde, and this is the Fischer projection for minus glyceraldehyde. Now, all other carbohydrates or monosaccharides particularly, their configuration was correlated with this compound in a way that either that particular monosaccharide is obtained from this glyceraldehyde or is converted back into this glyceraldehyde, such as any monosaccharide which can be correlated with plus glyceraldehyde, that was assigned capital D as the configuration, and all those monosaccharides which could be correlated with the minus glyceraldehyde, they are said to belong to L series. Plus is also represented by dextro, but that dextro is represented by smaller d. Similarly, this levo minus sign is represented by smaller l, but configurations are represented by capital D and capital L. These configurations have nothing to do with the actual optical activity of the compound. Any sugar which is prefixed by a letter capital D means it belongs to a family of sugars which can be correlated with plus glyceraldehyde, and any sugar which has got capital L as a prefix means it can be correlated with the minus glyceraldehyde. So, we say that D series of sugars correlated with plus glyceraldehyde, and L series of sugars, they are correlated with minus glyceraldehyde. But in any other monosaccharide, where do we correlate? We will correlate the configuration of this asymmetric carbon atom with the lowermost asymmetric carbon atom in the chain of that particular monosaccharide, because we will start the chain from the aldehydic site, and this chain can be developed on this, and we can get other carbohydrates. We will discuss this thing again in our future session in Killiani-Fischer synthesis, that chemically all other higher carbohydrates can be obtained from glyceraldehyde. Let us have a few examples. Say this is 3-Os and this is aldehyde group. The lowermost asymmetric carbon atom is this, and this has got hydroxyl on the right. So, this is assigned D configuration. In its mirror image, this hydroxyl is on the left, this is assigned L configuration, this is L3Os. Similarly, xylose, this is a 5 carbon sugar. The lowermost asymmetric carbon atom is this with hydroxyl on the right, this is said to belong to D series, and when this hydroxyl is on the left, this is said to belong to L series. Now, let us talk about the particular naturally occurring glucose which is called simply glucose, or also called as D plus glucose, or it is also named as dextrose. In free state it occurs in honey and in fruits, and it is a normal constituent of blood also. It is a colorless crystalline solid soluble in water, and it is an optically active substance which is dextrorotatory. In nature, it is synthesized in plants by the process of photosynthesis. The green parts of the plants, mainly leaves, they have chlorophyll. They use carbon dioxide and water as their starting material, energy from the sunlight, and with the help of series of enzymatic reaction, they get converted into glucose. And then later on in plants, these glucose molecules, they get converted into cellulose or starch. Then glucose is also obtained by the hydrolysis of sucrose, that is a normal sugar or cane sugar, and on hydrolysis it gives us 50-50 mixture of glucose and fructose, means each molecule of sucrose consists of one molecule of glucose and one molecule of fructose, and sucrose can be hydrolyzed by boiling with water in acidic medium. Then glucose can be obtained by the hydrolysis of starch also. The starch can be again hydrolyzed in acidic medium, or it can also be hydrolyzed with the help of certain enzymes, as it happens in our body also, and we can get glucose. Structure elucidation. Its molecular formula was found to be C6H12O6, and its structure was given on the basis of many reactions. I will discuss here only those reactions which gave a straight idea about its structure, such as 1. Glucose on reduction with hydric acid in presence of little amount of red phosphorus gave normal hexane. Then its another reduction with sodium amalgam gave us sorbitol. Sorbitol is a 6 carbon alcohol with 6 hydroxyl groups. So, formation of this 6 carbon chain as normal hexane as well as sorbitol, this indicated that it contains 6 carbons and which are linked in straight chain. Then glucose reacts with hydroxylamine to form a monoenzyme, and we know this is a reaction of aldehydes or ketones. Aldehyde and ketone react with hydroxylamine to form oximes. So, formation of a monoenzyme indicates that glucose contains one aldehyde group. Then glucose also reacts with hydrogen cyanide to form cyanohydrin. So, these two reactions, they confirm the presence of a carbonyl group in it. Then oxidation. Glucose can be oxidized by bromine water into an acid which was given the name as gluconic acid. This oxidation is a very mild oxidation because bromine water is a mild oxidizing agent. So, oxidation under such mild condition indicated that carbonyl group is an aldehyde group and not a ketonic group, because as I said before, in carbohydrates, particularly in monosaccharides, aldose and ketose sugars cannot be differentiated by Tollens test and Fehling test. Then another oxidation was that when glucose was oxidized with nitric acid, we got a dicarboxylic acid. And as I said before, glucose on oxidation with bromine water gave gluconic acid. When gluconic acid was also treated with nitric acid, we got the same dicarboxylic acid. So, this indicated that there must be at least one primary alcoholic group present which has been oxidized to carboxyl group, and there is one aldehyde group that is oxidized to carboxyl group. That is why we are getting a dicarboxylic acid. Then glucose reacts with acetic anhydride to give a product which was found to contain 5 acetyl groups, means a pentaacetate was formed, and this indicates the presence of 5 hydroxyl group. So, glucose does not undergo dehydration easily. So, that also indicated that more than one hydroxyl group is not present on any carbon. So, based on all these observations, these basic reactions, glucose was assigned this particular structure, that there is one aldehyde group, then overall there is a chain of 6 carbons, each carbon has got one hydroxyl group, and by considering this as a basic structure of glucose, we can explain all the reactions we have just studied. Like this, on reduction will give normal hexane, means we will get a 6 carbon chain, all these aldehyde group hydroxyl groups are reduced. On treatment with NH2OH hydroxylamine, it will form this oxime, this aldehyde group will form the oxime. On addition of HCN, HCN will add on to this aldehyde group, we will get this cyanohydrin. Then on oxidation with bromine, we will get this acid named as gluconic acid, aldehyde is oxidized, but on treatment with nitric acid, this primary alcoholic group is also oxidized and we will get this dicarboxylic acid called as glucaric acid or saccharic acid. And on treatment with acetic anhydride, there are 5 hydroxyl group, each gets acylated and we get a pentaacetate. So, using these basic reactions, this structure was given to glucose and this structure could explain these basic reactions. Now, if this is the structure of glucose, then it has got 4 asymmetric carbon atoms here. So, this structure of glucose that was determined on the basis of all these reactions, it was found that it contains 4 asymmetric carbon atoms, and if there are 4 asymmetric carbon atoms, then 16 stereoisomers are possible, because we know the number of possible isomers is 2 raised to the power n, where n represents the number of asymmetric carbon atoms. So, there are 4 asymmetric carbon atoms, 2 raised to the power 4 means 16 possible isomers, and out of those 16 it is only one that represents the naturally occurring D plus glucose. Now, this work was done by Fischer. After studying a series of reactions, he reached to a conclusion that the exact configuration of D plus glucose is this, where if we start numbering from the aldehydic side, the carbon number 2 has hydroxyl on the right side, 3 hydroxyl on the left side, and then lower 2 asymmetric carbon atoms have hydroxyl groups on the right side. How Fischer arrived at this configuration of the glucose, this we will discuss in our next session. Now, let us summarize our today's work. What we have done today, we discussed that what are carbohydrates, what are their important functions, where do they occur, then how they are classified, and then how they are named. We discussed how this naturally occurring glucose is obtained, and then how this structure is elucidated. Obviously, the structure was elucidated on the basis of certain simple basic reactions. Now, in our next session, we will discuss about that how the configuration of this naturally occurring D plus glucose was determined by Fischer, and then we will discuss some other basic reactions and mechanism of those reactions which are involved in studies of carbohydrates. Thank you.